We are back.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Molly. So we are out of executive session. Do we have any items out of executive session that require action of the committee?
Yes, we do. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we bring an updated version of the public comment policy to the full board for discussion at our October 27th work session.
Okay, I'll second.
Motion
And
to bring updated policy to full board
Public comment
at
policy.
the work session.
yes, ma'am.
Got it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
So
awesome.
you now need a motion too for the public comment card, I would say.
Yeah. So
What would the motion be?
the
Just
draft,
gonna bring the updated version of the public comment card, because that's
I think-
separate from policy.
I guess, okay, I make a motion that we bring a updated draft of the public comment policy card to the full board for discussion on our October 27th work session.
and I'm gonna add and the virtual. The physical and the virtual
Yeah.
public comment, so that we can look at both of those. Robin, you can wordsmith that.
Yeah.
And that's a unanimous vote between the two of you. Got it.
Okay, so we've got the public policy itself coming forward to the full board, as well as the new physical public comment card and the virtual card as well for discussion at the October 27th work session. Next item on the agenda is the approval of committee meeting minutes. We have the May 30th, 2023 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the committee meeting minutes. We took the June 12th off, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So May 30th.
You want me to do, okay, for the, okay, so I move that we approve the committee meeting minutes for May 30th, 2023, June 5th, 2023,
And October
and
2nd.
October 2nd, 2023.
Awesome.
I had to think about it. I was like, is today October 2nd? That's a bad sign.
Can I ask a question before you finalize the vote?
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't have those committee meeting minutes in front of me, but we've never had, so I guess I was just a little baffled that we're having meeting minutes of an executive session.
Because there was action that came out of the executive session, it was called, so that there was two motions that came out of the executive session. So
It
that
was
was
a
what,
meeting.
it was a meeting, it was an executive session, but there was action that came out of that. to bring
Yeah,
forth.
okay. Okay.
So that's
Yeah,
why I
that
had
explains
to meet.
it. Okay, yeah, thank you.
I can put them if you want to see.
That's fine. No,
Okay.
I get
You're
it.
not in there, okay.
I didn't see it.
So that was the May 30th, June 5th, and October 2nd of 2023 committee meeting minutes for the policy committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's unanimous. Oops, I just got an error on diligent.
I moved down to the codification. I'll put the motions in there for this, so we can keep
Okay.
up.
Mhm.
So we just need, I believe we just need to agree on these placements of the codifications from board motions. There's GC2, 5, and OE 4 and 8. And Robin, if you could bring them up individually, I believe they're color coded with what that board action was and date stamped. So it should show where that was added. I think we were pretty clear when those came to full board vote of where those were going to go, but need to just double check. Okay, so
This
that's
one is GC2.
GC2 11B has the addition of any committee reports not available at the time of the draft agenda for board members will be placed on the following board meeting agenda from board action taken on June 27th, 2023. So that looks good to me, unless there's any objections. We
Nope.
can. Okay, awesome. Let's
Ready.
move to GC 5.
We don't need a motion then?
I don't believe so. No, ma'am. It's just
That's fine with me. I just want to make sure. I don't want to bring it back up because we didn't take a motion.
the board. When I read the motions at the full board, we mentioned where they were going, the subparts.
Perfect.
I think it's just making sure all looks good and so that it can be deployed on our website and printed
I
material.
just asked a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Does this mean available at the time the draft agenda is provided to board members? That's on that Thursday, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Just at the time of the draft agenda for board members. It just sounded funny to me. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, because we get the draft. Yeah, it's supposed to be the Thursday before. And this is any committee report.
Discussed that, I remember when we talked about it, that it was, that's not the, like, when we do the draft agenda, the agenda setting, no.
Yeah, at the
It's
time of
Thursday.
the draft agenda.
Oh,
Yeah.
usually. Yes, yeah.
And this is for committee reports so that there's not a
Yes.
committee meeting on a Monday and then a report
Yeah.
due the next day. Cool. Any other questions on GC2?
Sounds good.
All right, GC5.
Trying to get it pulled up. Shoes.
So am I. Okay, here we go.
Can read it to you guys. It just says committees customarily will prepare recommendations in the form of a motion for future board agenda and consideration. And that was from board action taken on June 27, 2023.
Yeah, so that's in GC5, subpart
Oh.
1, second
Yeah,
sentence.
exactly.
Any questions about that? Cool, seeing none, going into OE4.
I'm locked up, so.
I'll read it again. This is OE4 Personnel Administration, and it's number 5, and the added, what was already in number 5 was administer clear personnel rules and procedures for employees. And then the new part is and volunteers, because that's from board action taken on June 27, 2023.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
Is it board action taken? I have May 16th. On the version in board docs, or not board docs, Diligent. What do you guys have for the date on that?
On GC5.
No, I'm sorry, OE4 is the one we're on.
OE4, June 27th.
It's June 27th. Okay, it says on the version
Let's see.
version I'm looking at in Diligent for OE4 says May 16th for some reason.
I can try to look right now. while you guys are
I can
talking.
look.
Yeah, just want to confirm the date. So if anybody ever goes back and looks at the discussion, so they
Board docs. I can go into board docs and see what that date was. Tears. So it was on June 27th. Second and final reading from the motion of
Yeah.
volunteers should be the end of 4 and 5, so that's at June 27th.
Okay, so if we can just make sure that OE4 has the correct date, because the one that I clicked on in Diligent is saying May.
Yeah, so yeah, the one in the folders, it didn't get switched out.
Got
It
it.
was, we corrected it, but we didn't switch out the correct one in Diligent.
Okay, so OE8. see what we got here. OE8 is facilities. And it was just the addition of the word secure in the intro sentence. So the superintendent shall ensure that physical facilities support the accomplishment of the board's results policies are safe, secure, and properly maintained from board action taken on, what's the date for this one?
This one says May 16th.
That's what I've got too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So
Okay.
OE is May
I
6th.
forgot to-
You remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, so all the others are in June. OE8 was in May. And so I'm good with those codifications unless there's any objections from anybody else.
Nope.
Okay. So next item on the agenda is the discussion on prospective policy changes. I did not submit any in advance of this meeting. It was a short turnaround from our last meeting. I do have a few that I need to draft up and kind of tweak. Most of them stem from items that we've talked about this year and also from a prior meeting that was tabled. So I can have those at a future meeting. And I know, Robin, you have those items as well. I think it was on our committee meeting minutes that needed to be rolled over. There was the supplemental materials.
It's the supplemental material, and that was discussion that when you wanted to get from the State Department and find out what the statute is.
Yeah. And Ingrid, did you have one too?
Well, I know I've mentioned a few things over the history of the board meetings. I know one was trying to flesh out more clearly the role of committees,
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
role and purpose of committees. That's one that has come up recently.
Okay. So here's what I would suggest we do is the committees, when we can bring forward our current policy at the next meeting to review it and see if there's any changes, or Ingrid, if you have any tweaks that you think would either shorten it or make it more succinct, that would be great. The supplemental material one. Robin, you said we were looking for what again? Sorry.
the state statute.
Right. So we need, Wendy, if you could see if there are any state statutes relevant to supplemental materials, educational materials, or I'm trying to think of what other word might be used in statute, but you probably much more are versed in that than I am.
Supplemental education materials would, I'm not sure I understand what this is about, so.
So it's stemming from, I think, our conversations when we started the whole, there's the AR on the book review committees. And that's been, I think, like tweaked over the last couple of years. We don't
Right.
necessarily have a direct board policy on that. And I'm not sure if that would be considered supplemental materials, what the board's role is in regard to supplemental materials. I believe there's a state statute that lists out all the boards actually, I think it's in quite a few places in the South Carolina Code on boards' responsibility related to regular curriculum and education materials, as well as I think supplemental, or they might call them recreational, I'm not sure. But I'm just trying to make sure that if there is a statute that we're supposed to be in compliance with, that we have a policy that perhaps points to it, and also that we don't have an AR that is not reflective of what the board policy is. You know, if we just need to add the word supplemental somewhere into our existing policies, and that could just be all we need to do. I just don't
Right.
know.
Well, we do know, although it's not in final form yet, the Transparency and Integrity Act in education. I think there'll be a lot of changes in there about educational materials and things, although it's in the conference committee, I believe, but
Okay.
about supplemental materials.
So then maybe that statute references current statutes that it's maybe going to supersede. I don't know. That might be a starting point. I know what I don't.
Well, I will just mention this to you all. There is actually a statute that says that, I think it's a State Board of Education is supposed to provide school districts with library material books. I'll just send that to you all, just for you.
Oh, yeah.
review. It's
That
very
might- Yeah, anything that you,
Now we'll be getting one,
Yeah,
we may be getting a list.
yeah, if you
Oh.
have anything like that that you think would be useful in that discussion, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Glad to, thank you.
And I have
Yeah.
one question, like what I was noticing, I was actually involved in another school board meeting in Dorchester too. And I looked at their agenda, and on their agenda, they had this whole process they put in place at the start of budget season, right? Which I think we're missing in our policy. So what happens is we don't really have as much sort of coming to us. And I mentioned this at the last board meeting, but I think that's really a critical thing. In fact, I think that's even in the role of school boards from the state legal perspective, is to be involved in the budget process. And it's not to oversee the budget, but to talk about budget priorities. So my question to the policy committee is, if I wanted to say, look at that policy, I think it was OE, what is it, OE 5? And say, can we put there's already some language in there, but if we could put a little more specific language in there that directs the superintendent to bring forward sort of the early budget discussions and priorities where the board can have some sort of input. If I wanted to bring that, would I bring that to finance committee, or would I bring that to policy committee, or would I bring it to the board who would then kick it to finance and then kick it to policy? What's the best practice for that?
I think as a committee member, you can make that request for policy, but then when it has to do with other committees, you need to go to that committee chair and see if they're willing to hear it.
And if
That's
they're not, then does it go to the board, or it just doesn't happen?
The way I would navigate that would be, bring it to policy committee for policy committee since you're on that committee, but then also at the full board level, you could certainly make it as an agenda request. And if some.
And I don't have anything, I'm just trying to figure out, I don't feel like we have a clear and consistent path for, like, if someone says, there's a missing piece to our, because I think, our policy manual is pretty good, but we did, borrow a lot from Horry County. And there may be some Beaufort County specific things that come up. And so I was like, if we want to kind of, I think the anticipation was we'd tweak it a little bit as we go. And that was one of the reasons we have a policy committee. But I just don't know if we have a clear and consistent, like, step one, if you have something you feel needs to be addressed, you go to the committee that oversees that, or you go to the board, or you go to, and then step two, if it passes the first test, it go, I don't know if we have that, or if it's everyone's just kind of doing what they think works the best at the time.
I think I'd have to pull up our policy manual to see if there's guidance on that for, I want to say it's in one of the first,
Governing culture type thing.
yeah, under one of the GCs. I believe there's some language to it. I think it's kind of loose. I think
It is.
agenda requests are submitted.
It is, we don't have what Ingrid is describing as a step one, step two kind of process. It is, and we don't even have it laid out. It's just a genuine practice. It's like, OEs go to committee, then stuff coming out of the committee comes to the board. If it's time sensitive, if the committee hasn't met, then we take it straight to the full board. But that's not spelled out. That is just a practice that we do.
And that's my question. If we're going to look at board GC5 board committees, I just think that we need, because right now, if we want to address a specific OE that already exists, we go to the committee, right? And that I think is correct. But if we want to tweak a policy or add or whatever, comes up, I'm not sure that there's clear and consistent. That's the big thing for me, is it doesn't have to be step one, step two. But whatever we lay out should be the consistent policy that when we get a new board member, we just say, oh yeah, you follow this procedure.
Well, if a committee has a policy proposal, it's supposed to come forward to the full board. And then the standing policy committee, let's see, I'm reading it right now. It's in
GC5 4A.
Yeah, so the policy proposals be brought to the board for approval. And then policy committee vets it legally and inserts it into the policy manual. So committees themselves, like if finance had something out of finance, they could, but I mean, you're on policy committee, so.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, and I have no problem taking my questions to, the appropriate chair. I'm just anticipating, like, what do you do if you're not on that committee?
Right.
We don't want board members also like butting in on all the committee meetings with policy. It's nice to keep the policy, small. So just something, maybe we could think about adding that at some point to a discussion, just so that we figure out the best path.
Yeah.
I don't have an idea, just something I was thinking about.
Robin, if you could add, what would you call that, Ingrid?
I would call it procedure for policy revision proposals.
Okay. That actually kind of goes to one of the ones that I was going to work on drafting, which is the inclusion of how often are our policies reviewed and updated? Like, is that an annual thing that we do, or is that on a as needed basis? Because I don't think it's very clear.
I agree. And I think it's, it should be a living document for sure.
Okay.
I support that.
Okie dokie. Well, it is 5 minutes till 10.
Get next meeting date.
Next meeting date. Let me look at my calendar here. If we can move towards, we've got the work session on the 27th that will be bringing forward the public comment. If we can look towards November, November 2nd, by any chance?
What day of the week is that?
Why is that dinging a bell for me?
Second is on a Thursday.
Thursday?
Works.
Is there a way to do it? I mean, I can do these mornings, but it's tough. Like, I'm technically working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me look. Hang on.
I know, Ingrid, you said Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays are better for you in
Yeah.
mornings. Do you want to do it on Friday, the 3rd?
I could do Friday.
Morning?
Fridays are good for me, and I am here that Friday.
Okay, let's do Friday the 3rd at 9:30.
Yeah, I can do. Fridays are much easier. They're less busy in the clinic.
Okay. That'd be great.
So the next one, Friday, the 3rd at 9:30.
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Okay.
And do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. For your time.
Thank you.
Bye.